Okay, we got one of our favorites here. JT Real Muto is going to be on the top. We got another one of our favorites holding on the bottom. And if you look at the top screen right now, it's giving you some stats, some crazy stats. JT's pop time is 1.8. His arm strength, how hard he threw the ball, was about 86 miles an hour. And if you look right underneath it, I kind of made some squares, and that resembles where his feet are going to be at in the next frame. So I'm going to rewind and get his feet back to where those squares are, because I want to talk about this. All right, we got Holden's feet in these squares, which look somewhat similar. JT's might be a little bit more out in front with his left leg. When runners are on base, he kind of gets a little bit of a runner's secondary stance. It also could just be the camera angle that we're seeing, all right? But his feet are somewhere in this position, okay? And moving forward here, what I noticed was a huge, well, for JT, it's actually really small, but let's pay attention to this back foot now, okay? His back foot slides forward a little bit, and then it's down, it's down pretty quick, right? We're like from there to there in almost the same box. And while he's doing that, his shoulder rotation has already turned in, okay? We're already starting to turn in with our rib cages and our shoulders. His front knee is already pointed to second base, and his eyes are directly at it. Like he is locked on within a second, okay? We watch Holden's screen. Watch the amount of movement that he's going to have with his back foot here. It almost jumps to the other box. So there's a tremendous amount of movement with his first step, which is wasting time. Okay, this is what we were talking about. We're wasting time. You want to get that pop time to 1.8 like JT. We got to shorten that stride up a lot, right? We got to get into that throwing position real quick. Okay, so that's what we'll work on next. Now, let's take it a little bit further. I'm going to erase all these boxes. And now let's get into that forearm movement where I talked to you about getting your throwing arm behind your elbow, okay? Now here's two similar throwing movements here, okay? This is where front foot gets down, front heel strikes the foot, front foot strikes the ground, okay? So we're both heel down in this position. What I notice is that, JT is a little bit more compact with his body. His glove side is very kind of like close to his body. Holden's is a little bit further out in front. The distance, he's more compact. And the same thing with the ball, believe it or not. The ball is a little bit closer to JT's body. Holden's is a little bit further, back, okay? So he's just a little bit more compact in his throwing position, something we can kind of talk about, especially being a catcher. But what I really want to try to discuss, and I really want to try to get across to you, is there's something called getting your ball or your wrist behind your elbow, or I say get your forearm behind your elbow, and watch how fast JT gets his forearm behind his elbow. So right now the ball is directly over the arm. It's not behind it yet, but in this next frame, boom, he's there. Like he is there. That ball is definitely behind the elbow at this position. From there to there, right? We're going from ball over the back shoulder, boom, ball's behind the back shoulder. Within an instant, he does that movement. Now, his arm is technically still behind his body, right? The elbow has not really even come forward yet. Now, let's watch how long Holden takes to get that forearm behind the elbow. Right now, the wrist is actually way in front of the elbow, and as he goes forward here, the ball's starting to work its way up. And now the ball is directly above the elbow. We are directly above that elbow at this point, okay? Now Holden's finally going to get that ball and that forearm behind the elbow. Boom, there it is. It's starting to come out. You can really see it in this next frame. That ball is definitely behind the elbow, but look how far forward you are already with your body weight. So your head and your body weight are definitely way behind this back foot. And again, JT is more in the center, right? So we're kind of, okay, here's your front foot here. You can see the difference, right? For now, we'll just play with percentages. But your percentage is about, I don't know, a 16% in front of the center of your body or close to your front foot, right? JT is more, he's a little bit different, right? He's a little bit further back. He's about 34% behind his front foot with where his head positioning is. Okay? So we definitely got to kind of see if we can get that form behind the elbow further back in our stance and a little bit quicker. The follow-throughs look pretty good, to be honest with you. Your front leg straightens out. Boom, his front leg straightens out. The throwing looks pretty decent. He may be a little bit more squared up with his head, but that looks pretty good right there. Okay, the follow-through comes. Now, this was what I was talking about with toe drag, keeping that back foot a little bit closer to the ground throughout the throwing process. This foot really never kind of gets out of that frame. It kind of stays low as he throws and gets into his front leg. We're holding maybe coming up just a little bit higher. You know, if we zoom in here, that foot may be coming off that ground just a little bit higher. And now, technically, his foot never even finally gets down there. Instead of kind of like JT here, he kind of like stays low with the foot, drives into that front leg, and then from that position, the foot touches the ground. And at this point, now it just starts to kind of drag forward. Okay, so kind of keeping that foot kind of driving down, and then you can, every follow through is going to be different. There's not one way to do it. But that's when I was talking about toe drag. That would be the position with JT right there, is kind of staying low, and that toe kind of just drags along the ground. Okay?